Now, what about that big hole in the middle?
This is the oculus.
The eye of the Pantheon, or the oculus, has been shown to be a structural factor in its own right. Engineers tell us it's not just a hole, it's a compression ring that effectively distributes the compression forces that normally stress a dome at its apex, allowing the dome of the Pantheon to outlast dozens of other ancient domes. This oculus is 27 feet across, allowing enough sunlight to pour in to reflect off the marble surfaces to light up the whole interior. 27 feet across. That's wider than you think. You could actually fit 5 Mini Coopers through the oculus. If Mini Coopers could fly. Never mind. It's amazing, given how much the Pantheon had going against it structurally, that it has survived to become Rome's oldest and, for many, its most cherished building. Then when you remember how often Rome has been invaded, it's even more remarkable that the Pantheon is still standing. How did it survive Rome's decline in the 4th and 5th centuries and its years of religious upheaval? When Rome fell, it was a Byzantine emperor that saved the Pantheon from destruction. He then donated it to the Pope, and it was converted into a church. Bell towers were added briefly during the Baroque era, but they looked so ridiculous that they were torn down in 1883. In other words, this is a building that simply couldn't be improved upon. And it stands today as a testimony to the engineering genius of the Romans. But the Pantheon also gives us a picture of how great was the eventual upheaval of Roman religion by a small but growing group of people called Christians. At first, the fledgling sect was considered to be an offshoot of the Jews and was simply an irritant. But soon, their message began to spread and eventually led to a full-scale clash of worldviews. The Christian belief simply didn't allow for bowing the knee to the gods of the Roman Pantheon, which meant the treasonous refusal to worship the emperor. This often led to localized outbreaks of harassment and twice led to relentless empire-wide persecutions, all because their faith wouldn't allow for what this building stood for. Fast forward to the 7th century, when the Pantheon is consecrated as a Christian church. Do you notice the oxymoron? There's no such thing as a Christian pantheon. The Christians saw themselves as monotheistic, worshiping only one God, proclaiming Jesus as Lord to the exclusion of the Caesar and all the gods of the Pantheon. One of the world's most profound ironies is seen right here in this building. An obscure Jewish carpenter from the Roman province of Judea was executed by the Roman authorities. But after his band of followers claimed he had risen from the dead, his message went on to replace and outlive the Caesar, the pantheon of gods, and the glory of the Roman world. And in the course of a few centuries, Christianity had overtaken the Roman Empire, establishing itself as a fundamental foundation of Western civilization. This upheaval has done nothing less than shape our world as we know it today. The architectural marvel that once stood for the glory of the Roman gods now stands as a monument to their insignificance and the triumph of a Galilean carpenter who professed himself to be God. Looking at the Pantheon and the history lessons it reveals reminded me why looking at history is so valuable and necessary in the first place. It was the Roman orator Cicero who said this: "History is the witness that testifies to the passing of time. It illuminates reality, vitalizes memory, provides guidance in daily life, and brings us tidings of antiquity." Knowing that makes something like the Pantheon and the Circus Maximus far more than simply ruins of a once glorious age. They're living monuments to lessons of truth that will last forever. Oh, and